Most people think they've seen it all, until they discover that the Tyrannosaurus rex looks more like a chicken than a crocodile. Or that there are creatures smaller than an amoeba that can fly. It sounds absurd, but it's true. The animal world is a handbook of curiosities that no one taught you to read, and that can change the way you see life. These little secrets of nature aren't just bizarre. They have everything to do with behavior, instinct, consciousness, and you. Once you learn these 6 facts, your view of the world, and yourself, will never be the same. Are you ready? The first thing you need to understand is that not everything that seems harmless really is. Raccoons, for example, with their round eyes and almost stuffed animal appearance, hide a temperament that many people don't even imagine. When they feel threatened, these animals literally show their teeth, and it's not in a friendly smile. It's a warning. And look, it's not just the charm of the forest, they can actually be aggressive. Nature is full of curiosities that test our most hasty judgments, and raccoons are masters at this game. And if you think this has nothing to do with your life, think again. How often are we fooled by appearances? That super calm friend can, on a bad day, turn into an emotional hurricane. The lesson from raccoons here is clear. Respect limits, yours and those of others. And if there's one powerful skill to be developed, it's this: knowing how to recognize the signs before the situation gets out of control. Pay attention to the looks, the subtext, the changes in attitude. The world is full of subtle signals, and animal behavior is a curious reflection of this. In fact, have you ever noticed how the curiosities of the animal kingdom teach us about human behavior? If a raccoon feels cornered and reacts, why would it be any different for us? Aggression is not always bad. Sometimes it is defense. It is survival. So, the next time you come across someone baring their teeth, perhaps what they need is not confrontation, but space. This is the line we follow, because not everyone breathes the way we think. Now, pay attention to this. Ants have no lungs. That's right, 0. They breathe through spiracles, small holes on the sides of their bodies that work their magic by delivering oxygen directly to their cells. An efficient system, straight to the point. And then you realize how much the world is full of curiosities that defy the logic we learned in school. If these little creatures can live without lungs and still lift up to 50 times their weight, what else are we underestimating out there? It's interesting to think about how the ant system seems more functional than ours in many ways. While we need an entire biological apparatus to circulate oxygen, they solved it with tubes and holes. Simple and straightforward. And do you know what this teaches us? That sometimes the most efficient solution is not the most complex. Instead of looking for elaborate shortcuts, how about trying the simplest one first? This applies to your routine, your projects, even difficult conversations. A good practical example: when you have to solve something at work, ask yourself, is there a more direct way to do this, like the ant spiracles would do? These curiosities of nature are like little walking metaphors. Ants, besides being organized and strong, show us that the invisible sustains everything. Their breathing is silent, but essential. What are you ignoring because it seems too small? The detail that doesn't appear in your planning, but that could make everything work better? It's not just a question of science, it's pure philosophy. And speaking of almost invisible beings, there is an even smaller creature that you may not even imagine exists. Imagine something so small that you can't even see it clearly with a conventional magnifying glass. Well, that's the reality of the smallest winged creature ever recorded, a parasitic wasp measuring just 0.2 millimeters. Yes, smaller than an amoeba. And the most curious thing, it flies. That's right, it flies. Nature is a spectacle of curiosities, and this tiny creature proves that size is not synonymous with importance. Quite the opposite. In fact, there are many big people out there who live with tiny attitudes, right? This wasp is like that silent collaborator who makes the work happen behind the scenes without needing the spotlight. And here's the lesson here: don't underestimate the small, the discreet, the almost invisible. If you work with teams, for example, pay attention to that colleague who doesn't talk much, but delivers everything perfectly. And if it's about you, remember, you don't need to shout to be valued. Sometimes, strength lies in those who move in the details. Nature is full of interesting facts that show us that impact does not depend on volume. Now think about it. If such a microscopic wasp can parasitize other insects, reproduce and survive for millennia, what are you waiting for to believe in your own potential? This comparison may seem funny, but it is serious. How many times do you feel too small to make a difference? The secret is knowing where to act. And if even such a tiny being can influence an entire ecosystem, imagine what you are capable of doing. And speaking of a powerful mind, have you ever heard of someone who can even control their breathing during sleep? Dolphins are true masters of the mind. They sleep with only half their brain at a time, literally. While one side rests, the other remains alert, monitoring everything around them. And that's not all, they consciously control their breathing. This means that, unlike us, who breathe on autopilot, they have to decide when to breathe. And then you come across another one of those curiosities that makes you look at dolphins in a different light. They're not just cute, they're strategic, conscious, present. Now think about how this applies to your life. Being present is a rare skill these days. Have you ever tried to do a simple task, like eating or walking, without getting distracted by 1,000 thoughts? Hard, right? Well, dolphins do it all the time. Their breath control is a way of reminding us that mindfulness changes everything. Want a simple exercise? Do the 4-7-8 breathing for 2 minutes before an important meeting. It will put you in the present, like a mental dolphin. Curiosities like these become true life manuals if we know how to observe them. In addition, dolphin split sleep provides a valuable lesson: balance between rest and vigilance. Instead of switching off completely or living in constant alert, they alternate. And you, how have you been dividing your time between resting and staying alert to life's opportunities? Maybe you're sleeping with both sides of your brain and waking up exhausted. There's much more intelligence in the curiosities of nature than in productivity books. And speaking of appearances that are deceiving, there's an animal that has always generated debate. Is it white with black stripes, or the other way around? What if I told you that zebras are not white with black stripes, nor black with white stripes? The correct answer is, they are black with white stripes, but this goes beyond aesthetics. This coloration serves as camouflage in groups, confuses predators and regulates body temperature. A true strategic combination of nature. And then we see another one of those curiosities that make us scratch our heads. How can something so visually simple hide so much complexity? But hold this now, the Tyrannosaurus rex, that Jurassic monster that haunted our childhood nightmares, may have been a distant relative of chickens. Yes, you read that right. Studies show that modern birds descend from theropod dinosaurs, like the T-Rex. You could even say that the chicken we eat for lunch is a distant cousin of the king of the dinosaurs. These curiosities turn logic upside down, don't they? And they also show that the transformations in life are much more radical than they seem. Who would have thought that fear could turn into pity? These kinds of discoveries are paradigm-shattering, and that's where the magic happens. Imagine if you started thinking of yourself as an evolving species. What seems clumsy or formless today could, over time, become something completely new, with purpose, beauty, and impact. The key is to embrace the process, just as nature embraces its mutations. And while we're on the subject of evolving dinosaurs, you might be surprised to learn that many of them are still among us, flying around. Yes, you read that right. The birds singing outside your window in the morning are actually modern dinosaurs. They are direct descendants of theropods, the same group as the legendary Tyrannosaurus rex. Science isn't kidding when it says that birds are the only dinosaurs that survived the extinction. It sounds like a joke, right? But among the most shocking curiosities in biology, this is one of the ones that most changes our perception of time, evolution, and even identity. After all, who would have imagined that that yellow canary is a cousin of the T-Rex? This revelation changes the way we see the world. A pigeon on the sidewalk now carries a Jurassic pedigree. And the most incredible thing is to realize how life finds ways to reinvent itself. The giant predator became a light, feathered creature with song. Nature took a creative leap worthy of a movie script. This teaches us that extreme changes can be part of the natural process of growth. You may be in a bit of a T-Rex moment right now. Rough, clumsy, confused. But who's to say that can't evolve into a lighter, more refined version of yourself? These fun facts aren't just fun facts, they're living metaphors. The transformation from a dinosaur to a bird is a stark reminder that nothing is fixed. Evolving, changing shape, adapting. It's all more natural than it seems. And the next time a mockingbird chirps in the middle of your Zoom meeting, instead of getting annoyed, remember, this sound comes from a survivor of the ages. Maybe it's just there to remind you that you, too, can weather any cataclysm and come out flying on the other side. So, after all this, do you still think the world is simple? The truth is that, while we run after complex answers, nature screams truths hidden in every detail. In the flight of a bird, in the silence of an ant, in the gaze of a raccoon. Each of these curiosities is not just a curious fact. It is a reminder that you too can change, evolve, breathe differently, even sleep more consciously. But now it's up to you. Will you continue to see everything with the same eyes? Or will you start to see the extraordinary in what seemed ordinary? Which of these discoveries impacted you the most? Tell me here in the comments. I'm curious to know how this affected you from the other side. And of course, if you want to continue exploring this type of content, with stories that no one tells you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because the next dive could be even more surprising.